I'm in a bit of woodland near Truro where I live. Just walking Phoebe, there she is, look. And there's a big swing here, look. I found this swing yesterday when I was walking Phoebe. You can see. I haven't had a go on it yet, but it does look like a lot of fun. But what I've been thinking about doing with this, and if you know me, you'll probably know what's coming next, is I was thinking about making one of my rabbit videos here, using this rope as a noose, and seeing if I could simulate a hanging with it. I'm not quite sure how I'd do it yet. There'd be a lot of working out. I mean, I know I could make a harness, because I've made those before, where you can suspend yourself and it looks like you're hanging. But that would mean I would have to wear a jacket, or a shirt at the very least. And if I was going to be a bunny suicide, it would have to, I would want to do it either naked or almost naked. So I've got to think about the logistics of that yet. I don't know yet. But it did get me thinking about, I suppose I should comment on this actually, about the last suicide video I made, which was the car video, when I had my car parked on a cliff edge in Portreath and filled the car up with exhaust fumes. I mean, just a few things about that. I mean, firstly, I'm not going to say it was genuine, but it was performed for real. The windows of the car were closed. The exhaust pipe was connected up properly to the window through that pipe. The engine was genuinely running. It wasn't a sound effect dubbed on the outside. And I was genuinely sitting in there for whatever it was, 10 or 15 minutes. It was quite funny preparing for it actually, because I kind of knew what I was going to do, But going around the supermarket buying one or two things I needed for it, I had this weird sense of kind of dark calmness came over me, which made me think, oh, I could do this. And I have to say that 10 or 15 minutes, whilst the engine was running and the car sure was filling up with fumes, were really calm 10 minutes. I'm not advocating or advertising this or recommending this. Please don't take it in that spirit. But just on a purely personal level, I just feel really calm and relaxed for those few minutes. But that might have just been the carbon monoxide, I don't know. I mean, it ended. I didn't. I think I probably would have got out in about another 5 minutes. I probably would have given, because I think it would take at least an hour to put me unconscious. But I think I'd probably given another 5 minutes and I would have got out. But as it was curtailed because a guy who was walking his dog came up to the car and asked if I was all right. So I had an interesting little conversation with him. He didn't believe. I said I'm making a video. And he says, yeah, I can see that. What's this note about? And I said, it's a suicide note. I'm making a video and it's got a suicide note on it. So I was basically telling him the truth. And well, I don't know. There was a weird bit of slippage there between the truth, what the truth of the situation was. He thought it was genuine. And one other interesting thing that happened actually, I don't know if you've seen that video. About 7 minutes in, if you listen carefully, you can hear footsteps. Someone else, about 5 minutes before this chap came up at the end, about 5 minutes earlier, somebody else approaches. You can hear the footsteps approach the camera and stop, and then you hear them walk away again, which is kind of spooky actually. It means that someone came up, saw what was going on, and just started to lead me to it, which I'm both respectful of, but slightly perturbed by at just a moment. Anyway, well, the other thing about this is I'm very reluctant to talk about art really, and to say that any of these videos that I make, the rabbit videos particularly, are art, because it brings so much baggage with it, doesn't it? To do with professionalism, and to do with skill, and to do with talent, and to do with an art market that's ridiculously elitist in places, and to do with celebrity, and to do with people's feelings of insecurity around it. People feel you have to know a lot about it in order to be able to participate in it or get it. All those kind of things, which I'm kind of reluctant to take on board. I don't like all that, really. But the one that came up for me in relation to that, just reading some people's comments, was about art as an excuse. And I can see why people would want to do that. It's something I reject, but I can see why people would do it. They say, it's alright, it's art. It's okay, it's art. I can do this because it's art. As if it's a safe place, which it kind of is. But at the same time, I think that lots of things are excusable. I can make excuses for lots of the things I've done in my life. I was dropped on my head when I was a child, or a bad upbringing, or I was drunk, or it was an accident, or I needed the money, or I was only following orders. I can make excuses for all kinds of things, justify away, explain away almost any action. All of us can. But personally, if I make something that's kind of like that art thing, I have no excuse. For me, you're ultimately accountable when you're doing something like that, because you've chosen to do it. You've made an active choice to do it, even if it's just the active choice of deciding to make it publicly available. At some level, your intention is woven right into the fabric of it, and there's no hiding place. You have to be accountable, it seems to me, or you have to accept that people are going to call you to account and you're not going to respond. You have to take responsibility for that, either to be accountable or for your own lack of or refusal of accountability. So that's my take on that. Anyway, that's the rope. I know how to tie a noose. I've practiced that a few times. But if you can think of any way to do it, because I would really like it. I wouldn't want a chair, I don't think. I would just want a panning shot. Where it just does this. It just pans up, and there's some feet, and there's the ears, and there's the bulging eyes and the gaping mouth. And it just goes skyward like that. Wouldn't that be great? I'd love that. So if anybody can think about how I can stage that without having to wear a jacket, that would be cool. Actually, one last note: the gassing yourself in your car video. My granddad killed himself. He gassed himself, not in his car. It was when British gas was toxic. You could do it in the oven, in the comfort of your own kitchen then. And so I was thinking about that, actually, kind of reconnect with my granddad a little bit. I don't personally know anyone who's hung themselves. Although when my kids were at school, for some reason there was a little spate of it. 3 kids in the space of 18 months hung themselves.